Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to Vlogmas Day 8. Today we are going to be looking at my non-fiction bookshelf tour. So if you've not been following along with the series, I have been filming 1 or 2 shelf tours at a time of my bookshelves with various different categories. Today we're sort of on a catch-all. It's mostly non-fiction. There are some anthologies. There are some things that are more fiction-like in here as well, but generally speaking, these are the books that aren't straight up stories. I will leave a link to the playlist with all of the bookshelf tours so far down below so you can check those out. We are going to cut to an overview and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the books. So this is bookshelf 13, which has some pop funkos, but also most of my non-fiction anthologies and some poetry books and a few other bits and pieces, plus some planners as well. Now that you have seen an overview of shelf 13, we are going to start talking about some of the books in a little bit more depth. I will have timestamps down below. I've worked out sort of rough categories for these books, but they're not hard and fast rules. So the first little book is actually the oldest book in my collection. It belonged to my grandparents. It is a little collection of William Shakespeare's sonnets, and my nana actually gave this to me, can't remember when, but she did give it to me because when I was a little girl and I was at their place, I would constantly pull this book off their shelf and just look through it. Couldn't read it, had no idea what it was, but I would just constantly pull it off the shelf. And so apparently she promised me when I was younger that she would give it to me, and she did. It must have been for my 21st birthday that I got it. All right, so the first actual category is Australia. I have To My Country by Ben Lawson. You'll have seen me talk about this recently in my wrap-ups. I also have Stan Grant Talking to My Country, which is a really fantastic text. It is Stan Grant talking about race, identity, and history. He is an Indigenous man, and this is his story, and it was a very eye-opening read. Then I have 3 books in the Growing Up in Australia collection. So there is Growing Up Muslim in Australia, Growing Up Queer in Australia, and Growing Up Aboriginal in Australia. I do have Growing Up African in Australia, but I have not read that yet, so it's not on the shelf. These are anthologies of people's real stories growing up in Australia belonging to one of these groups. They're all really fascinating to read. They do put a lot of things into perspective, and I enjoy reading through these collections immensely. All right, the next 2 are non-fiction based off true events, I suppose, or true people. So this one I've had for a very long time, and I actually am not entirely sure I've ever finished it. It is Spy Mistress, The Life of Vera Atkins, the Greatest Female Secret Agent of World War II, written by William Stevenson, which I think I purchased when I was working at Borders. And then this year I read Red Sea Spies by Rafi Berg, which is the true story of Mossad's fake diving resort. This has been adapted to a Netflix movie as well, which I didn't mind. The next 2 books are either verse or poetry books. So there is Finding Wonders, 3 Girls Who Changed Science by Janine Atkins, and it's told in verse. It's absolutely gorgeous. Again, something I need to reread. I haven't read it in a while. Nocturnal is a poetry collection by Wilder. I read this as a NetGalley ARC, but I bought it because I did like the poetry in it, but I also just liked how the book was put together because it is beautifully illustrated. I suppose the next section we'll call my arts and writing, or my creative pursuits collection. So there is Happy Mail by Eunice and Sabrina Moyle. This is just a collection of ideas for how to decorate your Happy Mail and hand lettering and decorating envelopes and whatnot, things that make me happy, to be truly honest. I have Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I bought this many years ago. I've read it. I didn't necessarily agree with everything that Gilbert talks about in here, but it is about her experiences with living creatively. Yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I did find it really fascinating to read about her thoughts and her thought processes in this way. Creativity of a different style, I have The Capsule Wardrobe by Wendy Mack. Wendy Mack is a stylist here in Australia, and this is her book on how you can create a usable capsule wardrobe. I've never managed to do, but I do have a book, and maybe one day I'll get there. And then I have 2 books on writing. There is Everything I Know About Writing by John Marsden, who is a famous Australian young adult author. He's also a teacher. And also No Problem, which is the NaNoWriMo book by Chris Batty, which I've had this for years. When was this first published? 2004. I've had this since at least 2005, 2006. Have I ever finished Nano? No. Have I attempted it in the last 10 years? No. Will I? Probably not, because that's not where my headspace is at the moment. Next up, we have my sciencey books. Yes, sciencey is a word. I have The Science of Doctor Who, because of course I do. This one is by Paul Parsons. It's got a gorgeous holographic cover. These two are completely random, and there is sort of a story, but it's probably not a good story about them. So I have two Michio Kaku, I'm not sure how to say it, books. These ones I've had for years. So Hyperspace is one that I started reading when I was in high school. Don't ask me why. This one is really an exploration of parallel universes, kind of quantum physics-y type stuff. I'm a terrible, terrible physics student. I quit physics after a term in high school. Why I have these is beyond me. I'm always deeply fascinated by physics concepts. I find those things really, really interesting. But when it comes time to actually applying them, my brain doesn't function that way. But I'm more than happy to read about it. So Hyperspace is one that I was reading, oh God, 15, 16 years ago. And also Parallel Worlds, which I bought. And I don't think I actually managed to read this one, but I will maybe someday. And then there is The Secret Life of Stars by Lisa Harvey Smith. You'll have seen me talk about this in the last couple of months because I was part of their blog tour for it. This is a very accessible book about the stars in our galaxy and was a highly enjoyable read. Moving on to my other section. This one has no rhyme or reason to it, really. The first one is this giant Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable Millennium Edition, revised by Adrian Room, which I got in 2004 because I received it as a prize for my graduation from my high school for the English language prize because that was one of our subjects. I actually won this in 2003, but I didn't graduate until 2004, so they didn't give it to me till I graduated. It does have a book plate in there. Fun fact, to this day, I had never taken the dust jacket off this book because why would I? It's a dictionary of phrase and fable. While I was pulling it off the shelf this afternoon, even though I've pulled this off the shelf many a time in the past, I took the dust jacket off and discovered that it has been embossed with my school's logo. I should really be more observant. Clearly I was given this book in a time when I was not obsessed with looking underneath dust jackets of books. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff and It's All Small Stuff by Richard Carlson. Fighting Islam by Susan Carland. The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. I really need to read this, still have not read it. This little collection of gifty type books that I got from Kiki K. There's Got What It Takes to Be a Good Leader by Marshall Goldsmith. Want More Energy by Dr. Libby Weaver. Want to Work Smarter and Live Better by Cyril Poopier. Want to Live a Life of Happiness by Shade Meng Tan. Are You Willing to Show Up and Live Your Best Life by Dr. James Rouse. And Want to Feel Calm and Confident by Shana Kennedy. Reading Magic by Mem Fox. It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be, Paul Arden. Teachers, Students and the Law, which I think I got back when I started teaching. The next two books were gifted to me by a friend in the States who bought them because she thought that I would find them funny, and I do. So there is The Xenophobes Guide to the Aussies and The Xenophobes Guide to the Americans. This is all very tongue-in-cheek about how Australians and Americans perceive their world. And finally, there is the First Aid Emergency Handbook, which I think I got at my CPR update last year. The next section is religion, and I do have a Bible. This is a journaling Bible, and for those of you who don't know, I was raised Catholic. I am religious to a point, and the way that I look at it is if I'm going to listen to or read stories from the Bible, I'm going to put them into context from when they were written. This was training that I got when I was in high school because my high school was a Catholic high school. So regardless of what happened in year 12, I had to have done I was going to be doing religion. So I actually picked one of the religion subjects that got graded as part of my VCE score, which was text and traditions. If you didn't do text and traditions, you still had to do a religion class, but you didn't get any score for it at the end of the year. I actually did really well in that class, to be honest, because what it was a cross between a literature class and a religion class. So you actually studied we studied the Gospel of Luke, and we studied it in terms of its context. So who wrote it? When did they write it? Why did they write it? And so that's how I approach things in the Bible. Anyway, that's just a little fun fact about me. I don't talk about religion very often because it's not something that I feel the need to talk about very often, but occasionally I'll come back to it if I feel that I need to. And then I also have a copy of the Quran, which a former student of mine gifted to me at the end of the year. They were Muslim and they bought me a copy of it. And the very last section on my shelf are my old planners. So this is my Kiki K A5 black leather bound planner. This was the one that I was actually using when I was still planning in a ring bound planner. I don't do that anymore, but I am keeping it because it is a really nice planner and maybe one day I will go back to using it. And this one was just a little art journaling traveler's notebook, I think, which I didn't do heaps in, so I just keep it there with all my spare little notebooks in case I feel like going back to smart journaling. All right, so that was everything that was on bookshelf 13. My shout out for today is Laura from Laura's Library Card, who is someone that I got to know through co-hosting the Love in the Night readathon the other month. Laura is really fantastic. I love watching her videos. She recently did a trial of a couple of book boxes and unboxed them, which I really enjoyed seeing, because it's always fun when you try something for the first time, and you could really see that with Laura in her videos. But I also just love hearing her thoughts on the things that she's reading. So I will leave Laura's channel down below so that you can check her out. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.